This is observation 4. It was with the patient's PCP for a med check and for Achilles heel pain. The room was very tiny. Um, there was two chairs in one corner. The opposite corner had the exam table stuck out into the middle of the room and actually extended past the middle of the room. On the other wall was the door, which swung open into right where the doctor would sit with his laptop. And then right in front of him was the counter with a sink and some cabinets above it. The patient was 50, and the doctor was in his 50s. The patient was black. Mulatto is probably a more accurate term. Um, the terminology that was used, Achilles injury, a rupture, some medication names, and then different dosages of medication. So the patient needed to have a med review every 3 months as required by law due to the prescriptions that she's on. So it was typically a pretty quick in and out appointment for her, and she also wanted to have her Achilles looked at. The doctor was the patient's regular PCP. The doctor walked in the room and asked how the patient was doing. The patient basically said that she was doing okay, but that she could feel SAD or seasonal affective disorder kicking in and wanted to also get 150 milligrams of Wellbutrin. Um, if I was interpreting this part, this definitely would have caused some confusion as the doctor was asking patient was asking for 150, so the doctor was saying, so you want me to order the 450? And then the patient clarified by saying, no, I have a 300. I want to add 150, only to take the 150 milligrams if it's needed. Didn't want to be stuck taking one pill with the entire dosage of 450 milligrams, which all became clear as the conversation went on. But if I was interpreting that, definitely would have created a demand for me to say, what are we talking about? Not realizing it was the patient wanted two separate pills to be able to control how much Wellbutrin she was taking. The patient said everything else with medications was good, did not need refills, and that she had some Achilles pain she would like the doctor to look at. And she felt that was being caused by a bony protrusion on her heel, which the doctor then interrupted her and said, I'll look at it and I'll let you know what I think, which just seemed kind of abrupt. There was no injury. The patient wound up through her insurance company, calling a doctor as she wasn't able to actually get in to see this primary care doctor. So that doctor over the phone scheduled her, prescribed for her a Medrol pack, and said that helped. Medrol is a steroid, but shortly after taking it, the pain came back. The doctor then just clarified by saying, "Oh, you mean you went to urgent care?" And she just said, "Yeah," which wasn't the case, but obviously you could tell she really it wasn't worth discussing, simply because there was no point in it. She got medication, it didn't work, she was still in pain. Seemed to be the point of all this. Um, so she asked the doctor if the bony protrusion on her heel is what was causing the pain. The doctor said, I'm not really concerned about it. Keep an eye on it. If it gets worse, we'll send you to an orthopedic. The doctor then referenced her bunion, saying, how does this feel? Does it hurt? And the patient said that it could get pretty painful at times. You could see the protrusion of the joint towards the inside of the foot, and the doctor said that you're really going to need to get this fixed soon. Do you want a referral? The patient said that she was supposed to have surgery 2 years ago, but had been putting it off, and not sure to make the referral. And that was the end of the appointment. So the question that the patient seemed to have was, this bony protrusion on my heel, is this what's causing some of the pain? Which really the provider just seemed unconcerned about. I'd say as a result, the patient seemed a little bit frustrated, almost kind of a whatever demeanor. The doctor did seem somewhat distracted, as evident by, not really paying attention when she said she had called her insurance company to get, call a doctor over the phone in order to get treated because she couldn't be seen by this doctor. I think the patient was definitely taken back a little when the doctor interrupted her, saying, I'll look at it. I'll let you know what I think. And um, the patient seemed a little disappointed that the bony protrusion on the heel wasn't addressed, even though she never directly asked. And I mentioned this in my demands below, is that I think if I was interpreting it, I would have used that as a disembodied question and say, so what do you think this is? Um, Yet it was really interesting seeing as an observer, it was very evident that was included kind of in the questions, but never directly asked. And I understand doctors have limited time, so maybe that was why that wasn't discussed. Um, and then the only other demand that I hadn't mentioned yet that I probably would have brought up was when the patient said, 3 weeks in, I couldn't see, so I did the call the doctor thing that my insurance offers. They put me in a Medrol pack. I don't know an ASL. Like in English, it was very clear, and this is good that I saw this and heard this occur because I don't know if I would have fully understand what was being signed had someone signed it. It may very well have looked like I'm calling my doctor versus an on-call doctor. Um, so that was something that I'm guessing if it was an ASL, I would have had to ask for clarification. Um, the initial milligram dosage that was being discussed, I would have had to ask for clarification. As I said earlier, it just wasn't clear what the whole point was, only to come to realize the patient wanted two prescriptions of the same medication in different dosages. Um, and I've already addressed the bony protrusion that I felt was not discussed yet. I probably would have brought that up as the interpreter. And none of the feelings that came up were something I would have felt like needed to deal with. And the only physical distraction was that there was focusing on the foot. And when the doctor said, does this hurt? While interpreting, I probably would have had to ask for clarification on what this is, as I'm not sure I would have had noticed he was tapping the side of her bunion. I would have probably assumed he was still referencing the Achilles. And prior to the appointment, I knew that they were going to be discussing the Achilles, so I just did a quick review of the anatomy on my phone. And that's it.